So you go, right button is the advance.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kim Davies. I'm president of PTI. As I think everyone is aware, PTI is the non-profit that was created in 2016 to provide you with the IANA functions. I started in this role on January 1st, and this is my first ARAN meeting, so thank you everyone for your hospitality. IANA functions are typically divided into three areas, so I'm going to focus on number resources. Just a quick view of our team. Currently we have 15 people that provide you with the IANA services. A lot of our functions are integrated, so they're not really divided into who does number resources, who does naming functions and so forth. But this is the team behind the services we deliver to you. Annually, we do a customer satisfaction survey. This is one of the key pieces, key mechanisms we have to hear back from our customers to make sure we do course corrections and adjustments to how we deliver services. The survey is segmented, so we send different survey components to different parts of our user base. In the context of number services, our primary mechanism of surveying is to send an annual survey both to the RAR CEOs and also to the registration service managers at the RARs. This past year, participation rate in the survey was 26%. This is a little lower than previous year's average, but that being said, it's a fairly small sample size, so I wouldn't read too much into that. From those that did respond, the satisfaction rate was 100%, and the average over the past 4 years was 99%. All 5 respondents basically, and I think this was echoed by the report we heard earlier today, indicated that there was no customer service related issues that they received from the IANA functions in the past year. And as is consistent with previous years, we ask our customers to rank the different facets of the service that we provide in terms of what's most important, what's least important, and accuracy and timeliness were ranked 1 and 2 in terms of what we should focus on when it comes to the numbers function. We produce a monthly performance report for the number services. This is the report that we just published a couple of days ago from March. It provides you with our adherence to the SLAs, and you can drill down onto exact timestamps if you want to do more analysis on that. We've met every SLA every time since this was constructed, so we're batting a pretty good average right now, and our goal is to continue to do so. Another important part of the culture of how we deliver the IANA services is one of having third-party auditors come and review our internal controls and our business processes to ensure they're fit for purpose. We do this by conducting 2 separate audits. One of particular interest to this community is what we call our registry assignment and maintenance systems. These are the key systems that we use internally to provision our service to you, a ticketing system and various other technical systems that are used to publish our registries. Like I said, we have a third-party audit of this done annually. We passed our 2017 audit with no exceptions. And this year in particular was notable because under the new PTI arrangements, it was the first time we explicitly included number resources in scope to the audit. Another audit that we do, which is of a different level of complexity, is a SOC 3 audit for our root zone KSK. For those that aren't familiar, we also maintain the trust anchor for the DNS, and that requires the private key for the root zone key signing key to be stored in fairly secure facility and to go through quite comprehensive procedures in order to use and manipulate the key. And all those procedures are audited. We have third-party auditors every time we use the key, and that separate audit pertains just to that business process. One last thing I wanted to note about the audit program. We've been auditing ourselves since 2010, and we've used PricewaterhouseCoopers in all those years doing that function. We put out a competitive RFP last year to identify a potential new vendor to provide audit services. After a thorough review, we actually did select a new auditor, which commences this year. The new auditor is RSM, which is not one of the big four, but I think they're number 5 globally. So, but they have a particular practice that specialises in some of the areas that are specific to us. So we're looking forward to having that special attention on our area of interest. Just a quick update on the recovered pool allocation. The global policy for post-exhaustion IPv4 allocation by IANA essentially states that those IP address blocks that IANA has recovered because they've been surrendered by the previous registrant are to be allocated automatically every 6 months to the RARs. The policy specifies a formula on how that is done. We last ran that formula at the beginning of March, which allocated every RAR 8/24s. As of right now, we have, I think, 33/24s left in the pool. Should we not receive any more allocations back to us, this will mean that in September we'll allocate every RAR 4/24s, and we'll allocate every RAR 2/24s in March 2019. And then at the conclusion of March 2019, we'll only have 3/24s left, which is below the minimums for us to do further allocations. So we will just sit on those either until we receive more or until the policy is altered. I feel I don't need to rehash this because there was a presentation earlier this morning, but I think top level is we're encouraged by the process, and I think the RAR community, much like our other communities of interest, are wrestling with the first year process of building out the procedures involved in doing these kinds of annual reviews and processes associated with the new post-transition IANA. We're very pleased with how that relationship went, and we're looking forward to improving that if necessary in future years. I did want to mention one of the key projects, not just for PTI, but for ICANN in general over the past year, has been the KSK rollover. This has been a multi-year process to replace the trust anchor for the DNS for the very first time. We're doing a lot of outreach and a lot of engagement on this simply because the process has not been exercised in the past. Because of the way the trust anchor is configured individually in many different appliances and applications across the internet, we really don't have a good handle on who the population is that need to make manual or adjust their configurations as a consequence of this. But in essence, there is an automated mechanism within the DNS to update the trust anchor, and we're really trying to capture configurations that haven't automatically processed this rollover. Now, we were planning to do this in October of last year, but we did get some telemetry data fairly late, just a few weeks before that date, that we wanted to study further, so we did delay the rollover. Now, we have studied the data, and data continues to roll in. Our best assessment is to reschedule the rollover for October of this year. We just held a public comment period to get feedback on whether that is appropriate. We're now analysing the comments, and we will be producing a response to those in the coming weeks. And then just a summary of some of our ongoing work within the team of interest. As you would have heard earlier, we're drafting a revised AS registry that excludes the inter-RAR transfers that have been added to the registry over the years. This is following discussion with the leadership of the RARs who requested this. We're very happy to do it. So we're just looking at our historical data to make sure the revised registry is accurate. We're going to then vet that with the RARs. Once we're all on the same page that this is an accurate representation of the historical allocations, we'll be publishing the revised registry. We are reviewing our data collection practices in light of the GDPR. With respect to the IANA functions, we have a WHOIS server, and we have several thousand registries that we publish, and many of them do contain personally identifiable information. We're really going through an exercise of working out, mapping that to legitimate business need and making corrections if necessary. The vast majority of those registries we maintain are at the behest of the IETF, so a lot of that discussion will be with IETF leadership, identifying areas where protocol parameter assignments have been made and PII can be altered or stripped out of those registries. Our biggest internal project right now is building a workflow management system for protocol parameter assignments. In terms of how we do our work, this does include number resources. We consider number resource allocation sort of a specialized kind of protocol parameter assignment. This is really mirroring work that we did in previous years that support our domain name activity. Today, if you run a top-level domain, you have a self-service portal, you log in, you submit change requests, it's all processed within that system, you can track it, and all the parts of the business workflow that could be automated are automated. So that's something we would like to map across to our protocol parameter assignments. So in close discussion with the IETF in particular, in the beginning, we're modeling all these data sets and trying to integrate them into a system, and then slowly but surely we'll be building our processing workflow into that system. I give you awareness because it is a large part of the work we're doing. I think the net impact on RARs is going to be fairly small given the number of requests we do per year for RARs, and that we're already quite timely in how we do those change requests. But it will have some effects that will improve the data access that we offer, new APIs, for example, to access our data, new APIs to submit change requests, abilities to RAR to do more self-service than they do today. And also, by using automation, we should reduce the possibility of error caused by manual processing, so that should improve performance and accuracy. One last thing I wanted to flag is that one necessary consequence of the separation of PTI from ICANN is that we have a wholly separate budgeting process from ICANN, but that budgeting process needs to roll back into ICANN's budget. And that means that we actually have to plan our budgets over a year in advance, which means that our fiscal year 20 budgeting process actually will begin next month. So over the coming months, we will be consulting with our stakeholders, including the number resources community, to identify what our priorities should be in fiscal year 20. And that will be then turned into a proposed budget that will be put for public comment, which anyone can provide input into. Once that has been approved by PTI, the top level amount will be rolled into ICANN's overall budgeting process that happens towards the end of the year. That's all I had today. Happy to answer any questions.
Microphones are open for questions.
Owen DeLong, no affiliation at the moment. Couple of questions. First, how did the KSK rollover end up in PTI? I thought the split to PTI was so that numbers and protocols went off and did their thing, and the ICANN organization was left to the DNS people, but the KSK rollover is entirely DNS related, so it seems odd that that ended up being saddled onto PTI.
So PTI provides all the IANA services across all those three areas: domains, protocols, and numbers. My recollection, and I'm happy to be corrected, is the actual split of PTI was at the request of the names side. I think the numbers community, the protocol parameters community didn't feel as strongly about that. But there's various agreements. The ICANN and the RARs have an SLA agreement. The IETF and ICANN have a MOU, and ICANN has a contract with PTI to deliver the naming functions. But wrapped up, PTI does all the day-to-day work, just as it did prior to transition. It's all the same staff doing the same work we did pre-transition and post-transition. Does that clarify?
So everything that was being done under the IANA functions contract, all of the IANA functions, all were effectively became part of the affiliate. The IANA functions contract included nominally the NTIA oversight of a contract with ICANN that provided them to do the central numbers registry, the protocol registries, and the DNS root zone. So all of that went into what became the PTI affiliate.
Okay. Stranger every time I ask. Secondly, as I understand it, and still not clear whether that $675,000 figure that's been tossed about is Aaron's contribution or if it's all the RIRs combined. It's all the RIRs combined, okay. So we're paying $675,000 a year essentially for the operation of a registry that doles out /12s to RIRs as needed in V6. We'll be done distributing IPv4 in 6 months or so, and doles out blocks of 32-bit ASNs for the foreseeable future. That does not seem to me like it should take almost $750,000 to do per year. So besides number registry, where is that money going, and do we really need to be doing those other things?
Just think about the fact that the plane costs a lot to operate even if there's no one in the seats. And so the fact that our registries are small and we make few requests does not mean that the registries do not have to be appropriately administered at a high level. But I guess, can you describe overall how much of PTI's costs go to various functions?
So I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, and I apologize, I'm a little new at this. I'm happy to look into that and provide further figures, but I will say more generally that I think it's deceptive if you look at just individual registries and the amount of effort just to maintain sort of that file. You could look at the root zone and say, well, the root zone is just a zone with like 1,000 entries in it. That can't be too hard, right? I think there is a lot of overlay that goes on top of that. I mean, you know, I'm traveling to some RIR meetings to do this kind of engagement. That costs money. You know, we have, I think the majority of PTI's budget is shared services from ICANN, which is providing things like IT support, IT operations, legal support, HR, finance support, all this kind of thing. So I don't want to speak for the appropriateness of the number. I mean, the number was what was agreed by the RIR community as part of the transition proposal. But I think if you want to look at, you know, the IANA functions at large, we don't partition out costs per registry. We look at the overall service and all the parts that go into providing service in general.
Well, given that the board of Aaron is now asking us to pony up more money to fund various activities, we're starting to look at where we might be able to reduce the costs that they're looking to recover. So,
Kevin Bloomberg, The Wire, not speaking as a royal we. I have been in a PTI budget discussion, a public budget discussion. They're lots of fun. There are lots of moving parts, just like our organization has lots of moving parts. I wanted to confirm the KSK, which is an important role and function and has lots of auditing, which I never enjoy myself personally. That is a function that is needed for reverse DNS, correct? Which is an important function for us, not just doling out IP numbers. There are important other things that PTI does that have benefit to this community, correct?
Correct. Having the trust anchor for the DNS enables DNSSEC, which in turn protects the reverse DNS tree.
Thank you.
Additionally, note that to my knowledge, the IETF is not paying PTI for the protocol parameter registry maintenance function, yet those protocol parameters are essential to having our registries, our V4, V6, and registries are subsets of the entire V4, V6 span. Someone has to maintain that. We're maybe a portion of that, but it's still important that those functions get done to have an internet.
Ron Da Silva, ICANN board, also chair of the finance committee. And I rise to kind of get clarity on from your comments. I listened intently and I was trying to understand, were you asking about the $10 million-ish budget for the PTI function within ICANN? And in the context of some of the comments were directed at budget inquiry and questions regarding ICANN's budget, or was it specifically towards the Aaron board and their contribution towards the PTI function. So I was a little confused on where your questions were directed.
I'm specifically looking at the RIR contribution and specifically what's going to PTI from that.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.